Hey guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have 5 projects for you that are farmhouse themed, but they have just a hint of Valentine's Day. Now that Christmas is over, I started taking down my decorations, and I have been putting up some winter ones. I'm not quite ready to decorate for Valentine's Day yet, so these projects can be put up now, and I'll keep them up through Valentine's Day and probably even into the spring too. Alright everyone, let's get started. For our first project, I took one of these wooden heart plaques from the Dollar Tree and one of their mini wooden crates, and I gave each one coat of chalk paint. I used the color Plaster by Waverly. Once the paint was dry, I used another Waverly color called Mineral, and I just did a dry brushing technique all over both pieces. Once the paint had dried, I used hot glue to attach the crate to the bottom of the heart. I just lined the bottom corners of the crate up with each side of the heart. Then I cut a piece of floral foam and I stuck that inside the crate, and I started adding some greenery and some white flowers to the floral foam. I didn't glue the foam in because I was thinking maybe I would want to switch this out later on. As it gets closer to Valentine's Day, I might change the white flowers out for some pink or red ones. To decorate the front of the crate, I just made a simple bow out of this black and white ribbon that I had found on sale after Christmas. Now, I did hot glue the bow on, but if you think you might want to change it out, you could always just tie it on to one of the slats on the crate or use a piece of wire to wire it on. Then I took 2 lengths of jute twine and I ran it through the holes that were already at the top of the heart so that I had something to hang this with. Since I was using 2 lengths, I just added a little dab of hot glue to the ends of them and kind of rolled it together so that I could fit it through the hole easier. Here's a look how this turned out. I really like how this looks, and you could even take this one step farther by adding your initials or your family names to the top of the heart. For the next project, I decided to create a type of heart garland that you could hang either on a bookshelf or across a mantle. So I found these little wooden hearts at the Dollar Tree and I really liked the size of them, so I traced them out on a piece of foam board using a pencil, and then I cut each one out with my utility knife. Now you can see here that the edges are pretty rough, but that doesn't matter. I just took my sanding block and sanded the edges down a little bit since it is styrofoam in there. And then once I had everything smoothed out, I used some yarn. Now they do sell yarn at the Dollar Tree, but I already had a bunch on hand, so I'm just using what I have. And I just added a small amount of hot glue to the back, and I just started wrapping the entire heart with yarn, going in all different directions. So if you have kids, this would actually be a really good project for kids to do, because you could get them started by hot gluing the yarn into place, and then you could just let them go to town until they get the whole heart covered with yarn. And you can see here I have the whole thing covered and it goes in all different directions, and I ended up doing 3 for my garland, so I did 2 in white and 1 in a beige color. Now I'm taking some jute twine and I'm kind of stringing it through the backside of the hearts. Like I just picked up a couple pieces of the yarn and strung the jute through, and I could tell this was the backside because you could see the hot glue marks on the back there. And then once I had all 3 of the hearts on my length of twine, I used my ruler to kind of measure them out so that I had the same distance between each of the hearts. And then I did add a little bit of hot glue on the back just to hold the twine in place. And I took some of this lace ribbon from the Dollar Tree. This seems to be something that they always have there, and I really like it. It's a really pretty color and it's a good size. And I'm using this to create tassels to go in between each heart. So I cut 2 lengths that are 12 inches long, and I kind of centered them between the 2 hearts. And I took another little piece of jute twine and I'm just using that to tie the 2 pieces of lace onto the jute twine. I used a bottle of paint there to kind of hold it in place. And I did tassels in between each of the hearts and then on each end of the garland as well. Here's a look at our finished banner. I really like how these hearts turned out, and I'll definitely be keeping these up through spring. The next project is going to be a wreath, but I wanted to get started on the embellishments for the wreath first. So I'm using a pack of these wooden heart stickers from the Dollar Tree, and you can see they had pink and red, and then some are just a natural wood. So I picked out 2 of the bigger red ones and then 4 of the smaller ones, and I peeled the foam dot off of the back of each of them, and then I flipped them over so that they were all facing up with the natural wood. And I used this antique wax by Waverly and I painted it on, and then I just used the cloth to wipe a little bit of it off. Now I'm going to take one of these 9.5-inch foam wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, and the Dollar Tree started carrying this white nautical rope. And I've only seen it a few times at my Dollar Tree, so when I do see it, I usually pick up a pack or 2. And I just wrapped the whole wreath form with the nautical rope, and I ended up needing 3 packs of rope for this wreath form. So now that my hearts are dry, I took some jute twine and I kind of measured from the top of the wreath down to where I wanted the hearts to sort of hang. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a length of jute and I'm folding it in half, and I'm gluing the 2 ends onto the center of the heart, and then I'm going to sandwich the other heart on top of it. So both sides of the heart will be that antique wax stain color, and then there's a long loop of jute twine. So when I wrap it around the wreath, I can just pull the heart through the other end of the loop to hang it from the center of the wreath. I actually think this wreath looks nice just like that without a bow, but I decided to add a bow to mine. So using this burlap and lace ribbon that I found at the Dollar Tree, I cut 3 pieces of equal length, and I'm going to make a double bow. So what I'm going to do is after I get my pieces cut, I'm going to take one of the pieces and kind of loop it onto itself, and I'm just going to kind of crease the end so that it stays in place. And then I'll do that again with the second piece, and then here you can see I kind of squeeze in the middle, and I'm using a clip just to hold it in place, and I'm going to do that with both of the loops that I created. And then I'm also going to squeeze the middle in on the piece that we're using as the tails for the bow. So once I have all the pieces, I just kind of stack them all on top of each other, and then I'm going to tie it right around in the center with a piece of jute. And then once I have the center tied, I'll just go back through and fluff the loops of the bow back out so that they're nice and puffy. I didn't cut the tails of the ribbon until after I glued it onto the wreath because I wasn't sure what length I would need for them. So after I glued the ribbon on, that's whenever I decided to cut the tails. And I always like to dovetail the ends of my ribbon because I think it just gives it a nice finished look. I didn't show it in the video, but I did take a small piece of jute and tie it into a loop, and I glued it onto the back of this wreath so that I would have something to hang it with. For the next project, I'm using one of these small pallets that they have at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to use the color Plaster by Waverly, and I'm not really going to give it a heavy coat. I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing to give it kind of a whitewashed look because I liked a little bit of that natural wood kind of coming through on the palette. And then I also had 2 mini clothespins that I put the same color on, and I did do the paint on those just a little bit heavier just so they would stand out against the wood just a little bit more. Now I'm using another pack of these wooden heart stickers from the Dollar Tree, and I took 3 out that are the same size. And after I peeled the foam dot off the back, I'm using this elephant color by Waverly, and I gave each one just 1 coat of paint. After I hot glued each clothespin to the corners of the pallet, I took a length of jute and I'm gonna glue the gray hearts to the jute. So I just added 2 little dots of glue to the top of the heart, and I kind of set the jute on top of it so that the heart would stay in place and it wouldn't stick to my table. And I kept each heart kind of close together because this is a little bit small, so I wanted all 3 of these to fit on here. And then once I clipped them into the clothespins, I took a little more jute and I just tied 2 little simple bows and I glued those onto each clothespin. And then I decided I wanted the word love to be at the top of the pallet. And I do have a Cricut, and I kind of debated just printing the word love out on a piece of vinyl and just sticking it on. But then I thought I would just try my hand at doing some hand lettering. So I used a pencil first and I wrote the word love out, and then I used a Sharpie paint marker. These are a little bit different than a regular Sharpie, but I think the color of the paint marker comes out better on top of chalk paint than if you would just use a regular black Sharpie. And so I was happy with the way the word came out, and then I just added a little heart to the side there. And then I decided that the gray hearts needed to stand out just a little bit more, so I used a white chalk marker and I just created little dashes around each of the hearts to make it look like stitching. I did glue a piece of jute on the back of this if I want to hang it as well. I think this piece is really cute, and I think it would look cute on a tiered tray or even on a coffee bar. So for the last project, I found these hanging tinsel hearts at the Dollar Tree. And I don't really care for them how they are, but what I do like about these is you can peel the garland off pretty easily because it's not glued on. So once you find the end, or just use some wire cutters to clip it so that you can start pulling it off of there, you're just left with a really nice heart shape. And then I used my wire cutters to cut off the plastic pegs that went around the outside and the inside of the heart. And then they had these little loops on the top and the bottom where they connected to each other, so I cut those off as well. Then I took the 2 forms and I placed them back to back, and I'm just hot gluing in a few random places. I didn't feel the need to hot glue the whole way around the outside because I will be wrapping this in ribbon anyway. But the reason I did this was just to give it a little bit more dimension instead of just using one heart on its own. I thought it would look cute if it was a little bit puffier by having the 2 together. So I'm using this burlap ribbon that I think I got on sale at Michael's last year after Christmas. And I like this ribbon because it's only about 1.25 inches wide, which I thought was a better width for something smaller like this heart project. But the problem I ran into was the roll was too big to fit through the center of the heart. So I just had to cut strips off as I wrapped it around, which worked out okay anyway. I just made sure that every time I came to the end of the strip that I glued it onto the back of the heart so you couldn't see it from the front. To decorate this heart a little bit, I decided to make some embellishments out of felt. Now, the Dollar Tree does sell rolls of felt there, but I already had a bunch on hand, so I'm just using what I already have. The roll of ribbon that I used was about 4 inches across, which was about the right size circle that I needed. So I cut the circle out of the felt, and then I just spiral cut it from the outside towards the inside of the circle, and then I started rolling it also from the outside towards the inside. And once you get it rolled up, you're left with a little flap, so then I just put a little bit of hot glue on the bottom and then folded the flap down, and that'll hold the flower in place. Then I decided to cut a strip of felt off. This is probably about 1.5 inches wide. And what I did was I just started fringing it with my scissors, the whole length of the felt, because I wasn't exactly sure how long of a piece I would need. And then using an old floral stem, I just started gluing from the top of the stem. I started spiral wrapping the fringe down towards the bottom. And you can see it kind of created sort of a leaf shape, sort of a feather shaped. It just looked really cute and really fringy. So I made 2 of these to go on the wreath as well. So once I had all 3 of my felt pieces cut out, I just arranged them on the side of the heart there, and I think this turned out really cute. And I did create a little bit of a jute hanger for the back in case I decide to hang this. I really like how this one turned out too. I think this is one of those pieces that you could either hang up, or you could put it on a bookshelf, or you could add this to a tiered tray too. Here's a final look at all of our projects. I don't know that I could pick a favorite this week, but you'll have to let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. If you're new here, make sure you tell me hi in the comments, and I'd love it if you'd subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. All right, everyone, I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye!